Rachel Santizo, do you want to do tequila shots before we start this?
Oh, I already did. Wait,
Oh.
is that a trick question? What's happening?
the my my point of bringing this up, I do have a point in that because we can joke about it. This is Odyssey House Journals. I'm Randall Carlisle. That's Rachel Santizo, and I was thinking as we started out that we can joke about stuff like that now, and we can be honest about it now. I'm a recovering alcoholic. You're a recovering addict, but and I'm a lot older than you. I think a few years back, we couldn't have done this podcast.
Right, exactly. And I think that being able to joke about it and be honest with how we're built and how we are is part of the process of healing.
And removing the stigma and recognizing the fact that this is a disease. It's not a moral failure on our part or anybody else's. And the point of this whole podcast is to talk about addiction and recovery to hopefully encourage other people to get help if they need it or if they want it.
Right.
You know?
And the way to do that is being upfront and vulnerable with how we are, regardless of how much time that we have.
Exactly. And I was thinking about the fact that a few years ago, it would have been hard to get guests because they'd say something like, I don't want my family to know, or this is going to make me look bad.
Right. Or employment or anyone. It was definitely a lot harder back then to be who we truly are.
Exactly. So I'm trying to look at the positive of this whole thing, and I think it's really good. If you hear noises, they are redoing part of our transitional housing program just above my office here. So they're pounding on the floor and stuff like that. So
Ooh,
that's what the noises are if you hear it in the background. Okay. And speaking of people who can talk about success for recovery and their past addiction issues, you keep finding these wonderful guests. So who is it today?
I do. So today, first, I want to explain what I'm wearing.
Oh, I forgot to ask you. Yes, I feel like a dirty old man saying, "Hey, Rachel, what are you wearing today?"
But let's be honest, Randall. So today, I think the word for today I was thinking this morning is incredible. So it's going to go along the lines with our guest, but as well as who I'm representing. And today I'm tag teaming, representing two incredible men in the community. One, you can't really see my shirt, but this is a shirt in honorary of Tall Wall, who passed away not too long ago in a biking accident. And he has a child, and he had a child on the way. And so there was an honorary workout to gain money to get to his incredible wife as well. And then my hat represents, it's my friend Nathan Peck, who is started a scholarship, and it's an MVP scholarship at
Okay.
Fit to Recover for those that don't have funding or don't have the means. And so they can just go to him and they can be a part of a community without having to worry about the financial burdens of it. So those are who I'm representing today.
Are you going to run out of stuff to wear every day?
I need people to send me stuff. I am for sure. I'm like, what am I going to wear next week?
Yeah.
So I
Send Rachel t-shirts, hats, anything.
Right, exactly. And I will absolutely, I would love to represent, because it's not about me, it's about the community,
Right.
about, everyone that's involved in it. So it's an honor to be able to represent.
And it's an honor to introduce your guests. Who
Absolutely.
is she?
So today we have an incredible woman. Her name is Felicia Ferry. And I am so excited for her to share her story and some parts about her story that she is courageous enough to be vulnerable about, that we need to hear about. So without further ado, Felicia.
Yay.
I feel like I'm on a talk show and I'm like walking out. Hey.
Yep. Right. Felicia, come on down.
Hello.
So just briefly tell us about your story, your past and what you're doing now.
Okay. So I'm Felicia Ferry, and man, I've been using drugs, since high school. Just started off with the little stuff and built my way up all the way to the hard stuff, and was doing like the hard stuff for about 10 years, and just I was trying to get sober at times, in and out of, jail, some treatments, and they just never really worked because they were like a 90-day cure all. It worked for a minute. And then when I got out of those, I was like, now what? And I'd go back to using. I have a son that's 11, and I have a really great family. I don't really come from, like drug and alcohol family. We did have, there was some abuse in not my parents, but my mother and my stepfather. So growing up with that a lot, I think my stepfather, he did use, but like the rest of my family, nobody else did. And then they were divorced when I was younger. And I guess I just veered off. And I stopped going to school. I think I was not doing so well in school. And so I kind of, started gravitating to the drugs and hanging out with those type of people. And then then I got really good at it. Like I was good at doing drugs, And
Let me stop you for a sec. You mentioned,
okay.
because a lot of people are watching who don't understand the progression of addiction. So you said you started out small. What age and what's small? What does that mean?
Okay, so probably like, 15, I started, smoking weed, sniffing like weird random pills, just like Adderall, or just even over the counter stuff like Dramamine, weird stuff like that. And, alcohol, and yeah, and I just slowly started getting up to the bigger stuff. I was still in high school, I started doing Oxycontin, and then, graduated to heroin and meth, and just did it all.
People watching would say, well, I presume you grew up in Utah, is that right?
I did.
Well, drugs like that aren't available to kids and stuff like that, are they?
Oh, but they are. They're everywhere. And I even at one point I was like, oh, I'm gonna move to Arizona and run away from all of this. But when I got down there, I even moved out to the middle of nowhere, and I still was able to, find what I wanted.
Okay. I didn't mean to interrupt the progression of your story, so go
Oh,
ahead.
that's okay. That's okay. So let's see, where was I? I don't know.
You were
Yeah.
getting deeply into drugs.
Yes. And my family, like for a long time, my family was always chasing me, like, because I was always doing like crazy stuff, and I disappear for long periods of time. I mean, they would put flyers out for me at one point, looking for me. Like I can't even imagine what I was putting them through. And finally, it got to the point where they were like, you know what? And my mom was taking care of my son, and they were just like, we can't have this in our life anymore, because I was just putting them through crazy stuff. I was stealing their things. I was just lying all the time. And so finally they were like, you know what? We have to wash our hands of you. Like you can't come around. So for a long time I was like, oh great, now I don't have them bugging me anymore. They can do whatever I want. And if I had any kind of court things going on, I just like put that all aside and never worried about any of that. So I had nothing to worry about. I could just use drugs, do whatever I wanted. But then I started. Go ahead.
What things did you have? Like during the,
Um,
like what came up?
I had, from the beginning, it was probably like shoplifting. I don't even know, just a long line of a lot of shoplifting, paraphernalia. And then when I started, getting more deep into it, getting charges for firearms, and I don't even know, like just a ton of court stuff that I have dealt with. I got to the point where I was on my way to prison.
You were a badass.
I was.
Those charges, so you said you were running, did you run from your charges? Like, did you obtain warrants throughout this?
Oh yeah, for sure. So I had warrants, and at this last point, like I was gonna go to prison. But then, I was actually offered Odyssey and drug court. Actually, I was offered drug court. But before I get there, let me just hurry and back it up just a little bit. So I was, just doing my own thing. And then I started getting myself into situations where I would wake up in an alley not knowing what happened to me. I've been left out in the middle of nowhere with no clothes. I had to walk, into the city like that. And that's, I mean, it's because of things that I did. I did bad things to people, and so they were retaliating on me. So it was just a both two-way street, like not good either way. And I just kept getting myself like my parents were just waiting for for someone to call and say that I was dead, that somebody killed me or that I had overdosed. And, I've kind of burnt all my bridges. And so then I was like, you know what? This time when I go to jail, because I knew I was going to go because I had warrants. I was like, I gotta be somebody. Like, I've got to turn this around. I I know I'm meant for something better than this. And so I made that plan, and I was just waiting for it to, I was kind of procrastinating for sure. But I knew once I was arrested this time, I was going to do something different.
So you would say that you were running until you got caught, but then when you got caught, or if you got caught, that would be your opportunity for change
Yeah.
by being incarcerated.
Yes.
So
Yeah. So I went to jail, and
I'm hanging on the edge of my seat here to hear what happened.
what happened? So I went to jail, and they offered drug court. And at first, I was like, oh, I'll just get out on drug court. I'll just keep being around the same people, doing the same thing, but I won't use drugs. And we all know how that goes. And that was my first plan at first, because I was still kind of iffy about it. But then I went into the courtroom for drug court, and I looked in the audience, and I saw all these people dressed in suits, all nice. And I'm like, whoa, who are those people, And then I found out they were from Odyssey, and I was like, oh, well, they look like they got things going on. And so I asked the judge, I was like, can I go to inpatient, and I even waited in jail. I could have gotten out a little bit earlier, but I waited in jail so I could go to this inpatient. And then so why I spent the rest of my time in jail, I didn't link up with anybody. I stick to myself. I read as many books as I could, like self-help books, business books, anything I could. And I just read. And then when Odyssey came and picked me up, I was like, okay, here is where I get to reinvent myself.
So you went, and people don't understand, Odyssey is probably considered probably the most difficult program to go through. But if you complete it and you graduate, it's one of the most successful. So describe what you had to go through, how long it took. And I understand you did residential, then you did outpatient, all that. So describe the process for people who don't understand.
Okay, so yeah, it's a pretty long process. Again, it's not a 90-day and you're all better deal. So you go into inpatient, and I love how they really built you up, set you up step by step, so that when you graduate, like, I'm not doing really anything different. I got a job while I was inpatient. So in inpatient, you kind of learn how to cope with the outside world, how to handle situations. A lot of people do think, oh, this place is all about rules and blah, blah. And well, like, life is all about rules, and that's kind of, and it is really hard if you go against it. Like, it's definitely a tough program, but if you kind of just flow with it, it gets easier. And I loved it. I loved being inpatient. I was, so you get like a job in there, and I was part of the kitchen crew, and that's where I learned I like to be in the kitchen. I don't know why, but I just do. And then I was offered to start a job while I was in there. So I would go to this job and just work like 4 hours a day, but it was good for me. So when I got out to sober living, I had a job, and I could start paying rent. And then I still actually have that job. But then when I got into sober living is when I went to outpatient, and in both in inpatient and outpatient, I worked through all the levels. And then I even outpatient, I made it all the way to house supervisor. So I got a feel of a little bit of everything.
So regarding your stay, so I know you said you started and you work at Wasatch Fresh, correct? And
Yes.
so you're trying to reinvent your life. And from what I understand, when you started there, you were a dishwasher.
Yeah, I was just a dishwasher, and and I didn't get paid very much at all. But I moved my way up, and it was all part of a plan. Like I had this whole plan in my head. And then I started going to Fit to Recover. And that I found that that was like my place in life, for sure. And so I was always going there consistently, working at Wasatch Fresh. And then I started slowly moving up at that job, started getting paid a little bit more, doing more duties. And now I do everything there. You could put me in any position and I could do it. And they work really well with my schedule. So it was a really good pivot job. And we've had other people from Odyssey come there. And at first there a lot of people don't hang because it is washing dishes. But if you stick with it, you can move up. It's definitely not a job that I want to be at forever. And then I've now started doing meal prep at Fit to Recover, and I love it. There's so many opportunities, and we're definitely expanding on that.
What was the total time from the time you entered orientation at Odyssey Residential to the time that I understand you just this will be airing probably a week or two later, but you just graduated recently from outpatient. So going from the steps were residential to transitional sober living to outpatient and then graduation. How long was that whole process?
That was 2 years and 3 months.
And
So, when people see these for-profit commercials for a 30, 60, or 90-day stay at some posh place in Malibu, uh,
Right.
there's a big difference between actually learning everything you learned over a 2-year period or going for 30 or 60 days to a place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've gone to one of those places where it was this nice luxury, like you could just lounge around and it was all nice. It's nice, and it does, keep you away from the drugs and at the time, but it doesn't give you any skills of how to manage your life or anything. I mean, besides just the drug use, there's a whole bunch of other things going on, and Odyssey, I feel, really helps you with that.
You're a good salesperson for Odyssey. I didn't even know you would be, but that's not why we ask you on. I've talked to a lot of hardcore addicts who have gone the same route you have, who tried one of those posh places, and they said they look at those as sort of a vacation from
Yeah,
using drugs. And you know that when you get out, you're going to use again.
yeah.
so when you were in Odyssey House, I know that what you said, there's two things that stuck to me about your story. And it was that you always make your bed,
Yeah.
and the impact letters affected you the most. So what is it about making a bed, and what is an impact letter?
Okay. And so that's making my bed started with in jail. Before you come out of your cell, you always had to make your bed. And I made sure I made it, I tried to make it like military style. And then that moved over. And then Odyssey, same thing. You always had to make your bed. And so when I came into my own apartment, I'm like, okay, I have to always make my bed. Or if I don't, that might be a relapse mode. And I mean, just a little tiny one, and it's not always perfect, but I always make sure my bed's at least made. I don't know why.
People don't understand sometimes when they're out on the street and they hear about the rules at Odyssey, why there's a point to that. Can you explain that? I mean, you sort of did before, saying we all live by rules.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes you, I think it makes you feel better once your bed's nicely made. It means kind of your life. I feel like if your house is neat, your mind's neat. If your house is messy, your mind's kind of messy.
Well,
And
and that you care if it's
Huh?
right, that you care about your stuff and
Yeah.
and how it's presented.
Yeah, and like just being in my own surroundings, like to make me feel good. And I definitely don't, sometimes my room's a mess, I got laundry sometimes, but I try to, for the most part, I try to keep it cleaned up. And if you just do it as you go, then you don't ever really have to, clean too much.
You keep referring to FTR, and for somebody who might be watching this the first time, Fit to Recover is a sober gym, but also encompasses other living aspects. Can you tell us why you love it so much?
Yes, I do love it. So when I was using, I was always, cautious of like my body. So sometimes I would try to even, go to the gym and stuff, even though I was on drugs. But and I would always, go for runs by myself, and I was always doing it by myself. And I always thought, God, I wish there was something I could do, maybe, and it would get me clean, And I didn't even know about this place like at all. I used to even run past it, and I still didn't even know it existed. And then when I was in jail and Rachel came there and taught a class in the jail to the cats people, I wasn't even in cats, but I would just join their little workout. And I slowly started to hear about it. And as soon as I got into inpatient, literally the day I woke up in a jail bed, by that night I was at FTR at the gym. It was kind of weird. And from that point on, like I stayed consistent um, for the most part, like 2 years. And it's not just the working out. Yes, I love the working out part, makes you feel good inside and everything, but just like that's my place to like go hang out with people instead of going and hanging out using drugs. We work out. And then the food to recover is just, it's so, and it's not just about being on like a strict diet or anything. And at first it was like, a community food thing, but since we've all had to kind of distance, there's just some staff that prepare it. But still, I learned new stuff for myself about nutrition and just a different connection with food.
And I know that this is very common and it's for male and females, but you have body image issues. I mean, you wake up every morning and you do like this stuff is important to you. And how does that empower you with those images that you have of yourself, like those old beliefs or the things that aren't true that serve?
Yeah. So those my old beliefs were, so when I was using and I was super skinny, I was, thought I was looking good. and and that's my main thing. Like when I would go to jail previously and I would gain some weight, that's why when I would get out, I would have to use drugs because I wanted to lose that weight. That's the first thing that would come to my mind. And I know this time I was like, you know what? I know I'm going to gain a little bit of weight, and I know it's going to be a long period of time to get healthy again, like to exercise. And I don't think I'll ever be as skinny as I was. And I've looked at some photos and I was like, dang, I didn't even realize how thin I was, that I don't even want to be like that anymore. And so I get up every day and I look at myself and I'm just like, this is what it is. And I love it, and it's a process.
So healthy to you isn't being skinny
No,
anymore.
not anymore. Yeah.
I
That's
wanted
good.
to go
That's
ahead.
good news for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Right, because that's what we correlate it to, and that's
Sure.
what it's about, because it's like internally too.
And doing something like meth or any kind of speed kind of drug helps you lose weight,
Right.
so.
To be true, there's something wrong. It's definitely too good. So I wanted to, you're doing such an incredible job, and thank you for sharing your story. There's a piece of your story that I think is very important for the community to hear. And that is the fact that you pay child support. A lot of times when we think about child support, it's about the males, right? And I think it's so empowering to speak about that part because you pay it and you pay it on time. And what is that like for you?
It's a little difficult, but at the end of the day, I know it's going to a good place. And it gets taken directly out of my check, and it's given to my mother. So, because my mother takes care of my son. And so I love that. I love that, that I can help. And my mom helps me. So it's a little cycle. My mom helps me when I am in a rut or whatever with money. She helps me out. And so it just kind of goes all around, like, so I love paying for it, I guess. But
I,
it
I
is
don't
a
think,
little.
I haven't ever heard of a woman having to pay child support. That is unusual.
Yeah. And yeah, it makes me feel better that it's going, that I can help out as much as I can. And I definitely have still a long ways to go, to be more of a better mother. And yeah, So thank you.
Some people in a family support group that I help facilitate always have issues with, drawing boundaries with their addictive loved ones, enabling them because they love them. It sounds to me like you were extremely distant from your family, and now you're getting along well. Can you explain how that worked?
Yeah, and I think that's what I needed, because my mom was kind of enabling me because she did love me and was trying to help me, and I think she just didn't know, she just didn't know how to help me. And finally, when she was like, all right, you can't come around anymore, I think then I was like, oh shit, um, and for a while, I was like, okay, cool, bye. But then it started getting to me like, oh, I like my family. I love my sister and my mom. Like we are so tight all the time. And now I can't even go around them. I think that's a lot that, made me start wanting to get sober on my own. I didn't, because I always was having someone push me, like telling me what I need to do and that I need to get sober. And I was just like, okay, but I really didn't want that. But then when they were like, okay, whatever, I was like, wait a minute, I do want to be part of their lives. And my son, like he just loves me so much, and he's so cute. And I want to be part of his life. And his dad is also, an addict and in and out of prison. And it's really hard to deal with that because, one hand, you want to give him a chance, and really my mom kind of deals with him, but I think that we're just kind of wiping our hands clean of him until he can start showing some effort like I did.
Yeah.
How old is your son?
He's 11.
Are you honest with him about the road you've taken, both bad and good? I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yes, he knows everything. Like we don't sugarcoat, let him know, this is why I was like this, and this is why I'm like this. And he's so proud of me. He tells me all the time that he's proud of me and that he loves me. And I'm hoping, that by being honest with him, instead of like, I think maybe for a while there when he was younger, I think we would lie to him. And so he's just wondering, well, why? But now that we're more honest, I feel like that shows him, not to be like that, not to go down that road.
we got about 2 minutes left. Rachel, you want to ask any more questions?
Well, I don't know that I want to necessarily ask any more questions. I want to tell you how courageous and incredible that I think you are. And I love how you can just be open about things. And so I definitely value and appreciate that. And also the journey with your son, because he's still with your mom as you're getting on your feet, and you're really doing everything that you can to be the person that you were once saying, I know I can be and that I want to be. And you're actually doing the work and you're putting in the work, What I do want to say is that I think that you have great hair. I definitely need to point out the hair. It looks good and it's always on point.
Oh,
And
thank you.
I will let Randall can end it, but what I really have been wanting to say is bye, Felicia.
I love it.
I think you heard Rachel and I talking at the beginning about how we're trying to erase this stigma that people can fall into an addiction, which is a disease, and can climb out of it and become productive, quote, normal people in society. And you're like one of the best examples we've ever had.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I hope somebody watching this will say, and another thing you pointed out was like if a parent's watching this, or a brother or a sister who has a loved one who's an addict, that it's not going to help to say, you got to get help, you got to get into this program, it's up to you. And you made that decision.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
I guess we only have about 15 seconds left, but I guess so. Well, thank you very much, and good luck. And we're going to see you in Odyssey's graduation. And the graduation is not the big program that it used to be because of COVID, but it will be again someday. So congratulations on behalf of everybody who's watching. You are such an inspiration. It's unbelievable.
Thank you so much. And yes, you will still be seeing me around. For
I
sure.
hope so. Odyssey House Journals, you can watch it on YouTube. Just Google Odyssey House Journals and you can
Okay.
listen to it on iTunes, Spotify, or iHeart, just
Okay.
for people who are maybe just tuning in. And so we will be back with, if Rachel comes, it's going to be hard to find a guest better than Felicia.
I agree.
Oh.
Absolutely with
Thank
that.
you so much, guys.
Thank you, Felicia.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Bye.
watching. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.